I just primered my van the other day. In this video, I'm gonna paint it. First thing I need to do though is wet sand the primer. What you're supposed to do is actually spray on a nice thick coat of primer with the spray gun, and then you do what's called a guide coat. It's where you basically take like a can of flat black spray paint and you lightly dust it over everything. The point of a guide coat is just to tell you when to stop sanding. So basically you get like a light dusting of like a flat black primer, or they make this like weird dust on stuff. I've never used it. But basically you sand that light coat of dust you put on there off, and it tells you like, okay, I've sanded enough here, stop, and sand some more over here. The point of that is to make it perfectly, completely smooth and even throughout. So if you're doing like a really nice paint job on a nice vehicle and you're doing like a color that shows all the flaws, not just white, then you want to do a guide coat when you sand your primer. And they call that like blocking. I don't know, there's all kinds of auto body terminology, and I'm no expert. But what I did is put one thin coat of rattle can primer on my van. So I'm not doing a guide coat. I'm not sanding a lot. What I'm gonna do is wet sand everything with 600 grit just to make it smooth. Because when you spray stuff, especially in a shop like this, with like 3 of Carpet Guy's fans sucking air out the back door, and it's not an actual paint booth, it's not, you know, great paint. I mean, it is actual automotive primer that I used, but rattle cans, you know, you end up with like a dusty, not perfectly smooth finish. And you can like wash the van. You don't have to do this. I mean, it'll still look pretty okay if I just washed all of this, prepped it again with that grease and wax remover, and then sprayed it. It would turn out okay, but I'm gonna go and, you know, do the right thing the wrong way and wet sand the whole van with 600 grit just to get the primer nice and smooth. And I don't have to do much. This ain't gonna take very long. It's 20 after 9 and tonight I'm gonna do just the hood, and then I'm gonna spray the hood with this primer just so like I don't see any difference between. I'm gonna do at least 2 thick coats of actual paint, but just in case, I want the hood to be the same primer as this. And I'm gonna do just the hood tonight so I can prime it and let that dry overnight, and then I'll do the whole van bright and early in the morning. We're in a heat advisory again. This whole summer it's been like excessive heat advisories and warnings and extreme heat, dangerous heat, and all that for like a week. Then there's a violent thunderstorm, and then it's like really pleasant for a few days, and then the heat just starts to build up again and then repeat. It's been doing that for like 3 months. So I'm doing the hood tonight, and you might have thought I forgot about these little guys, but I'm gonna sand these down and primer them as well. I got some 600 grit. This stuff is $1 a sheet for a half sheet. I'm never gonna financially recover from, it's just sandpaper. It's sand and paper. But I bought that. I also have 1,000, 1,500, and 2,000 grit that I already had, which I think I got from Harbor Freight because it says Warrior brand on it, but it works. So I'm just gonna use up all the materials that I do have. And I got a couple more cans of that same primer, and I got more wax and grease remover, more rags, more gloves, more plastic to tape the van off with. I got everything I need to get this done. So in this video, I'm painting the van. So even though it's 9:30 at night, it's 88 degrees out, and it's about 99.995% humidity. As soon as I open the door to set all this up, a cicada flew in and it's bouncing off the walls now. So I'm gonna have to work real hard tonight so I can sleep through that. If you're not familiar with cicadas, they're pretty fun. Just imagine getting hit in the head with like a drunk flying golf ball with wings that screams really loud. So what you do, you just use water to lubricate it with. If you're doing like really fine grit stuff, like 2000, you know, you can add a little dish soap to your water to make it even better. Make the water wetter. That's what they taught me in my asbestos class. But basically, I'm just gonna lightly sand this, and I'm gonna go by feel to just kind of determine, all right, that's good enough. And it don't take much, it don't take a lot of pressure. I'm using my rubber sanding block, which is the wrong tool for the job. You're supposed to use like a squishy, spongy, foamy thing, but I'm not buying any extra tools that for this job. I'm just gonna work with what I got. But yeah, this is it, you know. Just very lightly. And you'll feel like when you need to add more water or whatever, because the sandpaper will start to kind of drag. Well, this frickin' hose just, there we go. All right. Most of the hard work is behind me now, and that is a good feeling. Sanding all that Bondo, sanding all the paint off the van, that's the worst of it. This ain't bad at all. This is okay. I'm feeling good about this project at this point. Now if I spray paint on the van and something goes wrong, where I gotta sand the whole van again, that would suck. Because I have 2.5 weeks to finish this van and move out of my shop. I set a deadline for myself here. Today is August 15th, and I need to hit the road on October 3rd. But I need to be out of this shop by the end of the month. And you can do this with like a bucket of water. You don't need a garden hose. I just have conveniences here at this shop that I'm taking advantage of here. Not gonna mess with like the edges of things, just the smooth, you know, the main surfaces. I feel like I picked up a chunk of something right there. I made a scratch. Well, I'm priming this hood again, so that's fine. I'm really considering getting one of those bug deflector things, you know? Just with how beat up the front edge of this hood was. And with how much highway driving I'm gonna be doing, you know. Wouldn't be the worst idea. I'll try to get a close-up of right here. So, in the last video, I told you how you get all the Bondo down with a coarse sandpaper and then you go over with something finer. And on the rest of the cab, I went over it with 150 grit. On the hood, I went with 220. But I missed a spot right here. There's some deep scratches that shone through the primer. I think after another coat of primer and the paint, it'll be fine. But I'll try to get a close-up of that. If you run into that problem, they sell, like you go to like O'Reilly or something, in the auto body aisle, they've got, it's called like glazing putty. It's basically a thin, just a real thin Bondo that isn't as hard and doesn't build up as much, that you can fill tiny little scratches like that with to save, you know, if you're really going for perfection. Get out of here, bug. Or if you just do a high build primer. Or sometimes they call that like sanding primer or something. It's basically just thick spray paint that, you know, it sort of doubles as a filler for imperfections and stuff. But we're talking like show car, you know, perfection when you get into that kind of thing. I mean, we're just going for a nice solid paint job here. I want the van to be white, clean, and shiny, and even looking, basically. We're not going for anything crazy. But it's nice to get all the dents out, at least. All the dents, all the rust, and all the flaking off factory paint. So I think I'm about done. I'm gonna kind of just... The rubber sanding block's definitely not ideal. I'm actually pushing the edges down with my fingers just so I can get a better feel for it and kind of help the paper glide over this a little better. Very light. Don't apply pressure, just kind of let the paper glide over it, and that'll just knock off the dusty bumpies of... Plus this hood's been sitting, it's been like 2 weeks since I primered this hood, so it's picked up a lot of dirt. Yep, I'm done here, so. All right, so if you look right there, see how I did not sand that very good? I think after another coat of primer and 2 coats of paint, that'll be okay. But yeah, that's my rough 80 grit scratches. And then you can kind of see my 150 or 220 grit scratches. There's pinholes on that one. I'm giving you like a real close-up of this. From like 1 foot away, you don't see any of that, but focus, camera. Focus. Come on. Camera can't focus. Come on. There we go. Oh, no, lost it. All right. All right, for these guys, I'm just gonna sand them probably with the, well, I might just do it by hand, actually. I'm not too worried about the factory paint coming off of this, actually. I don't think they even primered this, because if you look right there, they either installed this and then primered and painted over everything all at once, or they just left this black and then ran a base coat right over it. Because everywhere there was a bolt, well, I guess they would have bolted this on and then primered and then painted. But underneath, after I took these off, there was primer. So I think they primed all the metal and then installed things like this and then sprayed the van. But this one actually has a crack in it. That's great. I'm probably just gonna throw some super glue on that, honestly. But what I'm gonna do, because I have this asphalt crap on here, one of you guys emailed me. You're an automotive detailer. You told me about a product from Zepp to get this stuff off, and thank you for sharing that. That was thoughtful of you, and I appreciate it. I didn't go buy that stuff. I should have. But I'm just gonna either grind this off, or I'm gonna try some brake cleaner real quick. The chlorinated brake cleaner works better, but it's, you know, flammable and bad. Oh yeah, it's working. I don't think I'm gonna spend the time to wipe all of this off, but I'll try to get the bulk of it. You're supposed to, like, not breathe in the fumes from brake cleaner, wear gloves, all that stuff. It actually, like, messes up rubber gloves when you wear, like, nitrile gloves. It'll, like, if you get enough brake cleaner on them, the fingers will get all big and, like, expand on you, and, like, the rubber just starts to deteriorate and come apart. Yeah, I'm pretty unsafe with all the chemicals and fumes and crap I've dealt with over the years, you know. Probably pay for that someday, but, you know. I got most of it off. I could keep doing that for a while, or I'm just gonna go ahead and... I've got a worn out 120 grit flap disc on here. It's pretty fine now. It's not 120 grit no more, but I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of hit it. You should never do what I just did. Take a grinder to plastic things. I mean, don't ever do like what I do in general. All right, now I'm just gonna go over the whole thing with this, and whatever I can't do, like these grooves, I'll do by hand, and then clean it all with wax and grease remover, as well as the hood, and primer it. Wax and grease remover time. This one's almost out. I bought a whole nother one though. No matter what you do, you should definitely use this stuff. I buy it from O'Reilly. One of the things you actually can't get at Menards. There's a whole bunch of this crap on the back, but I'm going to try to just not deal with that. Just going to pretend we didn't see any of that. These things here, I am gonna paint them with the rest of the van. Like, I'm gonna install them after I'm done with the primer and all that. And then after I'm done painting and cutting and buffing the paint, I'm gonna tape these off like here, and then scuff these and then truck bed liner them. So they're gonna have like a textured finish on them anyway. So I got them sanded like pretty good, but they don't need to be like perfect, you know. And now for the hood. I really wish I could primer this outside. And this is like the only place in the shop where I got room for it at the moment. Not ideal. But again, the weather is so bad. If I tried to paint this outside, it probably wouldn't go so well. So I got it here in the shop, right next to the trash can, like the dirtiest place in the shop. And I'm gonna put the fans on the back door, because that's the only place I can to get airflow. So all the overspray will go right onto the rest of my van. It's fine. See, back here, I was able to get a thicker coat by, going over it a second time. And then I ran out. I have another can, but I don't need to do any more. But if you were spraying this with an actual spray gun, you could get a nice, thick, even coat. And you wouldn't have these, like, spray lines in it. But that's just the nature of using rattle cans to paint stuff, You can't get as thick and even of a coat as you really want to. But with primer, you can get away with this. It's okay. But when you go to spray the actual paint, if you do use rattle cans, you're going to have to deal with that. And the only way to really get that out would be with wet sanding and buffing. I am going to use a spray gun to spray the actual paint and also wet sand it and buff it. I think I am going to do 1000 grit when I wet sand this primer on the van, because 600, it did get it nice and smooth, but seemed just a little more coarse than I would like for such a thin coat of rattle can primer. So I might just go ahead and do 1000 when I wet sand the primer in the morning here. And I will super glue this here in about an hour when that dries. You could Bondo that too, and it would actually kind of help. Bondo's plastic, these are plastic, same stuff. You could use fiberglass resin too, but I'll just a little bit of super glue. It's not that big of a deal to me, honestly. Previously, bright and early in the morning, bright and early in the morning, bright and early in... It's noon. Today's heat index is 108. I got the hood and the thingies back on and the windows back in their tracks. Previously, I'm not buying any extra tools that I, for this job. I'm just gonna work with what I got. I ran to O'Reilly this morning and bought this squishy sanding block. It has 1000 grit on it, but it's got sharp edges. So I'm gonna wrap a sheet of paper around it, and that's what I'm gonna do. Just gonna get this wet sanded down just lightly, knock the dust and overspray and whatever off of it, and then kind of rinse off the whole van, get it back in the shop, and dry it up as best I can and start masking. I washed the floor to make the humidity in here even worse. 1000 grit is definitely the way to go for rattle can primer. That's just way better. That worked out pretty well. I over sanded two tiny little spots on the edges of the hood there and the front fender there. Oops, I'm gonna just paint over it. Now it's pretty much the same as the last video. I'm gonna wipe it down with wax and grease remover, mask everything off, wipe it down with wax and grease remover again, and then try and mix up some paint and dial in my spray gun. All right, come here, little dude. If this guy landed on my van while the paint was drying, that would be pretty bad. That's a cicada. The worst is a moth, because their wings like disintegrate all over your paint. But what's interesting about these guys is they spend most of their life underground. And they come out toward the end of their life, buzz around and make a ton of noise, and then they pretty much die. All right, we're going outside, little dude. I mean, big giant dude. I think I mentioned like 14 times that I'm not too concerned with the roof, but I missed a dent on the fender. Hard to see on camera, but right there, see that line? Boop. That's a shame. It's too late to do anything about it now. I really need to get this van painted. I'm running out of time here. And there's one on the hood too. See that? Right there. Oops. Oh well. I did my best, you know. Not really, but I did as good as I'm willing to do with this. Alright, I just spent like 14 days masking off my van with dirty newspaper and probably the wrong kind of tape. And then I went over it with wax and grease remover again. It's about as ready as it's gonna be. I did a pretty crappy job wet sanding up there where the cab and the box meet. There's some rough spots. This area right here is unique to a box van, and it's pretty challenging to tape that off. I fully intended on, like way back months and months ago, I was going to put that seam sealer on this whole thing around where the cab and the box meet. Way too late to do that now. If it ever leaks, I will, or just some quad or something, but I'm just gonna paint it. It's like a foamy rubber gasket that's in there. I've already primered over it, but mine doesn't leak, but it's not out of the question that it will someday. I removed the windows, not only to make masking easier, but I also needed to get into this area that I kind of scraped up with the paint stripper hamburger patty thing on the grinder. But I'm gonna be tinting the windows too, so I've got them kind of laying on the floor in the office over there. But we're ready. I just gotta kind of set up the shop a little more. I'm gonna do 2 fans on this side, just down on the floor, blowing towards the rear, and then I'm gonna do like 4 fans in the back, and I think that'll do like a little bit better of a job pulling the haze out of the air and getting it blown out the back, because I just don't want a lot of overspray to settle on the roof and stuff. So this is the part that scares me the most, because if something goes wrong, then I have to sand the whole van again. You know, for every problem in life, there's a solution, and you got to remind yourself of that, you know. But the solution in this case would be I have to sand my entire van down again. Not all the way to bare metal again, but I would have to sand off all the paint that I'm about to spray on. If something went cataclysmically wrong with this. The most common thing that happens is like fisheye or orange peel. And usually that's from the surface not being clean, like grease, contaminants, oils. And the wax and grease remover is the best way to keep that from happening. The other thing that could go wrong is well, for one, it's like 1,000,000% humidity out. I'm doing this in the middle of August in Nebraska, and I mean, it took the air conditioner like 4 hours to catch up just from me having the door open for a little bit earlier today. And then also I'm doing tractor paint. I should be using like a catalyst or a hardener, a curing agent basically, but I don't have it. I'm just gonna thin the tractor paint out with mineral spirits and spray it through my like $25 Amazon spray gun. And this is my first time using that gun too. So, you know, I'm just gonna hope for the best and try my best. There's really no information on how to thin tractor paint to spray through a spray gun. It says you can. I looked up on Rust-Oleum. I found the MSDS, which didn't really give me any info on that. And if you like YouTube it or Google it, everyone says to use a catalyst. But what I'm gonna do, I got these paint cups. These are great for people like me who can't count past 10 without taking their shoes off. And I'm gonna do 8-to-1 and start with that. Try to spray it through my gun, see how it does. I have that piece of plywood over there that I can practice on. I've already got the compressor and the gun pretty much set up. I used my regulator on my air compressor on, well, my inline regulator slash moisture collector thing. And I got the compressor down to about 40, 45, something like that, PSI, going to the gun. And then the gun has a air nozzle on it. And then there's like a how much paint knob, and then a spray pattern knob. So I'm gonna mix this up. Hope I mix it right. I'm gonna try 8-to-1, but I'm gonna also kind of like eyeball it and see like, okay, this seems too thick. I'll try to add a little more, but I don't want to overmix it. But too thick would be worse than too thin, I think. So I'm not spraying, you know, chunky frickin' confetti onto the van. But these paint cups are great because you just find your ratio you want, 8-to-1, and then I can mix up that much, or that much, and then you do the paint up to the one line, and then you add your other shit to the other line. So, you know, wish me luck. This is really stressful for me right now. I just don't have the energy or the time or will to live to sand this whole van down again and start over. I just really want to get this done so I can hit the road. And yeah, I really should be using a hardener, a catalyst. Okay, so this time I've got 4 fans in the back, and we're gonna open the door just a little bit, just like last time, about a foot. And hopefully it doesn't suck the plastic right off my van. Okay. And then I've got 2 up here. It's gonna get loud in here. Okay. Now, we put our paint in Amazon spray gun. Uh-oh. And we practice. Okay, wish me luck. This gun does not seem like it's set up just right, but seems like I either got too much air or not enough spray, or I didn't thin it enough. I don't know, it just doesn't, it's not buttery smooth like I was expecting. I gotta keep this filthy air hose off my work too. This is going well, but I do feel like I could set this gun up a lot better. I don't know. I might thin the paint even more, honestly. I don't want it too thin where I have runs, but Way less overspray than with the rattle cans. I might actually be able to spend the night here. I got too heavy in that corner. I gotta remember we're doing more than one coat here. You don't gotta go perfection the first time. You just gotta keep it even. It's white, you know, it's shiny. Okay. I gotta add more paint. Not really, but I will. I'm already sweating just from having the door open for 10 minutes. I'm glad I bought a second quart because I'll probably need it. I think I need more air pressure actually. That was a little too thick. Gotta be careful so I don't get runs. Okay. Double fail. Running out of paint. Out of paint. Shit. Not ideal. Yeah, I hit the air hose right there. Hopefully that doesn't leave a grease spot because that air hose is filthy. Also, I'm glad I bought 2 quarts. So I'm gonna need it. Alright, so update. GoPro died and I'm burning through way too much paint. I intend on doing a second coat, but you know, if I run out, I'll have to go to Menards, spend another 18 bucks. I might have enough. So far it looks okay. The paint's going on. I'm not seeing any major oh my god happening, and the shop's not even dusty, so this is going to be pretty good. All right. Finish this damn door. This seems to be going on not as good. It's kind of orange peely. Not sure what's up with that. Oh, shit. I gotta do a fender, so. That's fisheye. That's what you don't want. There's some too. Man. That means there was some oil on the van. Should be spraying better now. Too thick. fisheye, fisheye, fisheye. I didn't have the van clean enough. A lot of that might have been from me leaning over the roof, sweating on it. That's the bug. Oh, now you're stuck. Got a mosquito on the door. It's painted. This went about as good as I could have hoped for in these conditions. It's like 80 in here now, just from having that door open. It's at least 80. It's muggy, sticky, literally. And it was pretty close to perfect till I added the second coat. I either didn't wait long enough or something, but it's just not as smooth. It's still shiny and glossy, but it's okay. I'm gonna just have to wet sand and buff, you know. But it's evenly coated. There's no like spray pattern like you would get with aerosol. And I'm happy with it. I had one run down on the cab corner on the driver's side. That's my fault. And then something kind of funky going on the driver's side fender too after I added the second coat. So I just quit while I was ahead. So the lower portion of both doors only has one coat on it. But I'm just gonna leave well enough alone. If I keep going, I'm just gonna mess it up even worse. And at this point, the van's painted. And as long as this dries, which I got the door shut and the fans off now because of the humidity. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to just get the AC going and hope that this dries good overnight. I'm gonna wait several hours before peeling all the tape and stuff off. This is gonna take way longer to dry and cure than primer does. Primer dries in like 20 minutes, you're good. This is gonna take like pretty much all night. I'm happy with it though. It's painted. I would have liked to have had a thicker, much thicker paint job. Like I was kind of expecting to get 3 coats out of 2 quarts of paint, but it took a lot more paint than I was expecting. And if I went and bought a 3rd quart, I would be an idiot, because at that point I would have spent like $10 more than a gallon of tractor paint. So You know, should have just bought a gallon. But I thought just a cab, not a whole vehicle, shouldn't need that much paint. I probably didn't have the gun set up just right. The spray pattern was good, but it wasn't, I feel like it should have been a more, it should have came out like, went on like butter, glass, whatever people say when referring to how paint lays down. It didn't lay down as great as I would have hoped, but you know, I'm no expert. I haven't done this in frickin', it's been probably 15 years since I used a spray gun, so, you know, there's that. But I painted my van. It's clean, it's white. You can see some dents. All that body work I did, it's still got some dents, but it looks, I mean, it probably looks better on camera than it does in person, but in person it looks frickin' good. Oh, I can see another dent right there. Oh, maybe not. The lighting in this shop is frickin' terrible too, by the way. All my videos, that buzzing noise you hear in the background, that's these two metal halide lights. They cast a ton of shadows. I went and bought the cheapest, crappiest LED lights when I started making these van build videos to try and at least make it where you guys can actually see. And half of them have burned out already. They were like, it was like, I think 15 bucks for a 2-pack, so. But I'm moving out of this shop in 2 weeks, so whatever. And then I bought 2 videography lights, and one of those quit working too, so, you know. Cheap LEDs from, you know. Yeah, I will just see you guys in the morning. And, or actually, whenever I peel this off, I'll pick up the camera again. But van's painted. It's the next day. Paint's finally not sticky. I sort of ruined the whole satisfying aspect of the spraying sequence with all of my stressed out dialogue. So I'll keep my mouth shut while I do the peeling. I was trying to show you all the dents and the flaws and stuff, you know. White paint though hides a lot of it. I need to kind of do the door jambs in a couple little areas. I'm just going to do that with the spray can. I'm going to let this paint sit for like a week before I touch it. And then I'm going to wet sand and buff it. And that will get rid of all the spray texture. A couple of runs I had, just little ones, no big deal. And then before I install my new bumper, which I still need to show you, it's not done yet, but I'm going to truck bed liner this portion, and then maybe around the wheel arches and the rockers. I do have all-terrain tires, which are gonna just kick up a bunch of rocks and chip the crap out of this paint. So in the meantime, I'm going to paint the back of the box, touch up all the trim. I can buff the whole box really, the sides anyway. And then I have a bunch of work to do on the inside. I gotta finish the inside of the cab. I have a lot of wiring to do. I have to finish building my desk. I've been waiting to do that until I finish the cab because I'm tying the power system into the front there for the fridge and some accessories and stuff. So I'm gonna run conduit under the van from kind of where my inverter and stuff is up to the cab. So I'll be doing that, and then this whole van is going to come together pretty fast after this. This was the last major project, so the grand reveal of what this thing's going to actually look like is coming up very soon. There's going to be new grille and headlights, awesome off-road bumper, my new wheels. It's going to look great, so stay tuned for that. Special thanks to Stephanie for the Menards gift card, and Larry and Randy for your gifts and donations, and all my Patreon supporters and everybody else who's donated. I appreciate that. Thank you to everyone who keeps watching my channel every week. I really appreciate that. You know, I watch YouTube just really late at night, pretty much before I go to bed. That's the only time I have in my life to watch any sort of TV. And you know, as time goes on throughout each year, like my interests kind of change and evolve. And there are a handful of channels that I watch every week regardless, because I just love their content so much. But there's a lot of channels that I used to watch all the time that I kind of don't anymore, because I'm just not really interested in that kind of thing anymore, or you know, I've just kind of moved on to something else. And I've got a lot of comments from you guys saying that you've been watching me since day one on this van build and stuff, and I really appreciate that. That means a lot, because I know like a lot of the time it's kind of the same stuff and you know, the same subject or topic of videos, but thank you for that like dedication to my channel. I really appreciate that. And the channel is changing pretty soon. I have a lot of videos about the van, stuff I want to talk about. I want to tell you like a breakdown of what it costs to build this van, and like discuss some alternatives, stuff that I did that wasn't totally necessary, or different ways you could do that, just for people who are interested in doing a build like this. Pros and cons, things I would do differently if I could go back in time, stuff I really like about it, stuff I don't, and that'll be a continuing subject as I, you know, travel in the van more and live in it more, and just have more to talk about in general. And again, I am planning on weighing the van, because I'm really curious what this thing weighs, just, you know, just to see. And kind of after I get it all put back together and aligned and stuff, I want to kind of get a real good feel for the suspension and how that's going to work out and all of that. I have a lot of little like actual like logistical things to figure out in the van. Like I really got to dial in all my storage and all of that, and just fine tune every little bit. Nothing too crazy. I'm still hitting the road on the 1st of October. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Stay tuned for the next one. You guys have a great week, and I will see you later.